I'm looking at Trevor in Michigan. Let's talk about burden of proof and biblical interpretations. Pronouns are he, him. How you doing, Trevor?
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Yeah, so I'm an atheist, and my dad. I was raised in a Christian household, but I never really really subscribed to that. I always just kind of went my own way. But me and my dad still have debates about it, and so I sent him a Bible verse, like because you know how they always say you have to take the Bible as the Bible, and like you have to like take the Bible as what it is. Well, I sent my dad this Timothy verse, and it was like it said something along the lines that like a woman should hold no power or authority over men, and that in fact
First
should remain
Timothy.
quiet.
Yeah, First Timothy. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then he automatically just goes to oh, you're just taking it out of context, and I'm just like, see, like, I mean, if you have to go get somebody else's interpretation from somebody else of the Bible, then
this isn't
that even a thing. Like,
yeah, this is an interesting thing. This might get into like the more philosophical weeds, and I'll try not to make it that. But this is a problem that I have that, I've heard in discussions, and then over time, I've really realized how much of a problem this is. Is that, I mean, look, so I use kind of like Proverbs 3 as an example. Lean not on your own understanding, but that of the Lord's. I could just, tell somebody that I think that verse is interpreted as like, don't do any critical thinking. Like, just screw that shit. Give that, God's gonna do that for you. But a Christian's never gonna they're not gonna like that interpretation. They're gonna say that I went wrong somewhere. And I think like these types of examples, maybe you just do an in-house debate, right? A Christian versus a Christian, and them disagreeing on a verse, whatever it is. There's this idea about a principle of interpretation that you take, right? So like, if I want to be correct on what God means, I need to have a principle that aligns with what God intended, right? Right? Because the whole point is that we should interpret it as close to God's intentions as possible. And that's how we're gonna
how do you figure that out?
Well, yeah, exactly. So this is precise. Well, so here you go. So this is exactly what I'm going to get to is that think about, and this has been used. This example has been used by somebody, and I greatly credit them for this because I think this is extremely a good point. Like, think about how we know like what somebody means in your life, like your mom or your dad or whoever. Generally, you have background information about that speaker. You know a lot about that speaker, and so you can construct a hypothesis when they say something to you of like what you think they intended. So, for example, if your mom says something to me, and I'm like, "Wow, your mom's being kind of mean," and you're like, "Oh no, that's actually, you interpreted that incorrectly. She actually really likes you. You just don't have enough background information about the speaker, and so you're going to have a hard time ruling in or ruling out the right kind of intention that she had behind it." And that makes sense that you know it better than I do, and you can interpret better than I can because you know your mom, you have background information, you understand her intentions, how she uses words, maybe even her body language, right? All of this gives you a better analysis on how to interpret it. But think about the text of the Bible, right? If this principle is true, that what should back up our interpretation is knowing the character, like the speaker, and knowing what those divine utterances mean. Well, how do we know anything about God? Trevor, I'd ask you, where do we get the information from about the attributes of God? Where does that come from?
Well, right. So that's the big like whole story.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm asking you, like, what would the Christian say?
Oh, well, usually they would go, oh, well, it says it in the New Testament and how Jesus
there you go.
was.
There you go. But remember,
Jesus Christ in the Old Testament Bible don't add up.
But remember, and like this is, and I'll go off of my huge diatribe. This is a thing I think is a massive problem for any scripturally based text. So you hit it on the head, right? It's, in order to get the attributes or intention of God, we have to go to the text. But the problem was deciphering which interpretive principle we should use from the text in the first place. So we just did this really weird loop back to this thing where now the interpretive issue can be brought up on a higher level. How do we interpret that those are the right attributions of God as opposed to the interpretation of these other attributions of God? And you don't actually get background information about the speaker. So what it seems to conclude is that there isn't any way that you can independently justify the principle that you use for interpretation because you have no other tool to gain access to God's intentions. Thus, you're not justified in any interpretation you have. That to me is an immense problem for anything scripturally based, because they're going to use the exact thing that caused the problem in the first place. But yeah, sorry, that's my rant.
Exactly.
Maybe present that problem to your dad or whatever, and see how he thinks about that. And just, hey, all I'm asking for you is to justify your principle, and he'll probably say the Holy Spirit, and then you say, well, Christians have the same tool as you do with the Holy Spirit, and if you disagree, then the non-believer like me and Ben are sitting there going, well, I guess the Holy Spirit's either a fucking liar or it just doesn't exist, right? Like, it's one of those two, it seems like. So, yeah. But,
so, I asked him about the Holy Spirit one time, and I was like, so do you believe in ghosts, right? Because essentially that's what the Spirit is. And he's like, oh, I believe in one ghost. I'm like, well, if you believe in one ghost, doesn't that imply that there could be multiple ghosts, right? I mean, like, how is there just one?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, you don't have to worry about like a contained form of reasoning on some of these beliefs, I think. But, that's, I think you're going to get this weird leaking out of kind of things. And that's not to be like dismissive to the character. It's just like, if you start out believing that magic is kind of an acceptable answer for solving some issue, you'll probably continue to use that tool and make the same mistake, throughout the course. But Ben, I mean, yeah, I don't know. What are your kind of, with interpretation and these disputes, whether in-house Christian, atheist Christian, what's your kind of your thought?
I don't have anything different than what JMike has already said, because it's a problem with, like, how do you validate anybody's interpretation? How do you, and I really like that example that you used about, like, knowing the character. And of course, that's where we get into this weird thing, because you'll have priests that will say, well, but that's why I'm here to tell you the interpretation, because I know the character better than you do, so therefore trust me. And that's where we get into that. And so people will say, well, it's not me, my priest or my pastor is the one that knows more than I do.
My imam and the scholars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that problem it surfaces at that level, right? Because presumably if they're the ones of authority, then they would just be able to tell us the interpretive principle and how it's independently justified, because it's not like this problem just doesn't exist for them. It's precisely the problem,
Well, and what specific branch of Christianity does your dad come from?
So he converted to non-denominational.
Okay, so this is actually a great example, because
it's like mega church.
Yeah, well, because if you take this and you say, because you can follow this weird train of like, oh, well, I don't know as much about the character of God and what he would want, so it's my pastor. And then like that pastor might say, oh, well, it's this other pastor, whatever. And you keep going back this chain, and where, at least with the Catholic Church, them and the Orthodox Church can be like, well, but we're appealing to the original disciples and like the original teachings,
church fathers.
But you get into an even weirder place with these Protestant faiths, because they at some point decided that their convictions were different. And so then how do you validate your different? You can't follow that train anymore, because you can't even go back to the original like church, because they weren't Protestant. So like, whose revelation, like within that, did Martin Luther like have more information about God than everybody else? You run into these same problems that whole way.
Right. And then, another issue I find is that, like, you have, like, the Jewish people that don't believe in Jesus Christ. You have Roman Catholics who believe praying to Mother Mary. And then you have, like, people like my dad who don't believe, who say you only pray to the one God. And it's just like, who's right in all of these beliefs? It's just kind of like a giant merry-go-round of just, no, I'm right, I'm right. You know what I mean?
Trevor, here's a thought for you, right? You can ask your dad this, or whoever, just be like, hey, do you think God is infallible? Like, meaning like when he intends for something, he's going to get that outcome. So like he wants a really dank ice cream. He's getting that dank ice cream, right? He's not going to fail at getting achieving or obtaining that intention. And most theists, this is already baked into their view. They'll say yes. And so just kind of ask, but does God intend for everybody to understand and come to his word? Now, if there's yes, you shouldn't fail, right? There shouldn't be an out, because all you have to do now is just say, well, look at all these denominations. So now I can create an argument that, well, if there's a God that does intend for everybody to understand, but the data shows that nobody understands, then the conclusion is God failed, and now we get a contradiction. An infallible God who can't fail failed, right? And it also just seems, and it also seems that if you just answer yes, he doesn't want everybody to come to it. He wants some people, maybe the elect or whatever. Well, then God's seemingly the author of confusion at that point, right? It's just intended to confuse people. And you just don't really see like which route, is more favorable for you. But anyway, Trevor, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, or Ben, but I want to try to speed through some of the calls. Okay. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your call, Trevor.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.